All right, umoya ulight, umoya ubright. Welcome to another episode of The Artist Indaba. The Artist Indaba is a platform where artists can share experience, knowledge, issues. We're tired of every time an artist dies, then we have to collect monies. So we are part of a generation now that has to fix the injustices of the past. Um, and every last Friday of the month, we gather as artists in different disciplines to try and engage, to try and make sure that things are a little bit better for the generations coming after us. We can't keep making the same mistakes. This Indaba has been flooded by the Samro issue. And today, I'm sure, is the first time we're going to be able to have other disciplines and talk about what other children in the arts are doing. So thank goodness for that. Please remember to share this broadcast and like, share, and subscribe to the Moya podcast. It's so nice. The first speaker for today is Senzo 911, a graffiti artist. Senzo, I mean, it's incredible that you have managed and you have stuck in there. So obviously you've got a lot of experience and can teach people how to actually stay in the game. So can you just take the floor, Nkosi?
Asibonge, sister, it is very interesting what you are having these conversations today because he is in the SARS project a long time ago, you know what I mean? But I'm a platform, our ask opportunity to celebrate our history, our lifestyle, our multicultural diversity, our talent, vibrancy, and most definitely our heritage, arts, and culture. Therefore, ngibonga kakhulu sister ukuthi sesilana namhlanje so that we can share our stories and who we are.
So we are ready. We are ready. You can share with us your story, what you do, how you started, what were some of the pitfalls, how can other upcoming graffiti artists, what can they learn, which way should they be going? I mean, now there's AI coming in to threaten the arts. How did you do it so that other graffiti artists also stay in the game until they are 50?
Listen, me, for example, I'm not threatened by any AI or anything because at the end of the day, remember, this is a calling. This is spiritual. This is the power that we possess as the melanin people, you know what I mean? So therefore, I know ukuthi nami ngivakashile la emhlabeni, but into important ukuthi share the memories, you know. Therefore, when we spoke about culture earlier on, to celebrate it every day movuka ekuseni, you know what I mean? Uyabonga uJehova, umbelinganga, you can call him whatever you want, but at the end of the day, when umuntu as a God yourself, you need to create. So at the end of the day, you need to create. That's the order of the day. Young to the young people out there, bangapheli ithemba, they need to focus. Okay, bayesgela, bayenza into zabo, but at the end of the day, kumele ayifile lento ngaphakathi kuye because at the end of the day, iwuye leyo nto leyo. So nathi masimbona ayenza into yakhe, uyas-inspire, uyasifundisa, he shares knowledge and it becomes that heritage, you know what I mean? So it is very important to have more people abafana nathi wenansi because at the end of the day, this is what we need to create for the youth or the next generation to learn from about these platforms.
So in terms of graffiti, because you are specifically speaking to the craft of graffiti, what is it that makes it sustainable, and where have you had your pitfalls so that other children don't fall into them?
Look, I mean, in life that depends on which way bani wenzani, you know what I mean? There's always gonna be pitfalls, and then there's always gonna be inkinga financially and otherwise because khumbula ukuthi thina vele basiboni, sabogcina, even our government will support or not, but at the end of the day wena kumele wenze iplan as umuntu. okay, if ngizoba a graffiti artist or a street artist, to be frankly, you need to know ukuthi udila ngani. First of all, you must organize your material. You must practice what you preach, meaning you must practice every time. You must study. You must read books so that Spanish sakho sizoba abroad. The pitfall will be when you are stuck because you are not reading, you are not learning, you are not educating yourself, you're not empowering yourself, because khumbula ukuthi i-art is not just nje ukuthi uyapenda but it's self-love. Why are you doing it? You know what I mean? So into kumele kuvuse ekuseni every day, yabo. Yes, uzoba ne-struggle. Yes, uzoba nama-challenges, but at the end of the day, kumele wena uzikuke wenze sure ukuthi into yakho uyayenza. You know what I mean?
I hear you. And then in terms of the struggles of because some other young graffiti artists might be complaining which maybe they don't have material, they can't afford the paint. How do you sustain that cycle of stock and your art?
First of all, you work with the businesses around you. You understand? Of course, it will fall under maybe branding, for example. And you approach as a shop, I'm a supermarket, I'm a restaurant, you will go to in Villagazi, display your artwork, sell your artwork, sell yourself, not sell yourself, but saying, as an artist, you need to be part of the economy as a gas, you know what I mean? Let me make an example. Let's say I will go to Sakumzi and say, Sakumzi, please, can I do something for you? Hang your artwork there. While amateuristas wagala, they see your artwork. Somebody's gonna love your artwork. So you need to always engage yourself with I'm a patrons as a cars, you know what I mean? You need to go to Native Rebel. You need to find out what's going on in Soweto Theater. You need to go to a Sabona Music Jam where you can meet other creatives. So we can talk about, okay, where's the next gig? You know what I mean? You need to just be active. Be activist at the end of the day. I think the more you do that, the more you practice your skill, the more the opportunities are coming. But you need to be ready, because when the opportunities are coming, ungekho ready is as good as a loss. So you need to engage, you need to participate, community projects, ube everywhere. Like right now, we just did a basketball court in Morris Isaacson. You know what I mean? But it started by me volunteering without getting paid for the past 10 years, until Inando said, yeah, man, we like your style. Come through, Senzeli design la Payana UK. You know what I mean? A Middlesbrough, a Stafford. How? Tugu. Now, Babu Shalisteron, Zwagale, New York. Uzotuna reading for us. We love your art, representer in Africa. You know what I mean? Therefore, you need to always do it easy, and then actually in that process where you are rolling, you know what I mean? It's very important. So to the young artists out there, if ucabanga ukuthi uzoba discovered wena uhleli lapha e-studio sakho and doing your artwork, nobody will care. But at the end of the day, once you start now moving outside your comfort zone, that's when things are happening. I understand. So that is very important.
Thank you. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on, but I want to acknowledge all the elders that have stepped in the room and come into the session. Thank you, Umam Swongile. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us. We appreciate it. Thank you, Putbongani. Thank you so much. We appreciate you and your work. Sis Yolanda, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And obviously, Uputsenzo, who has just given us the breakdown of graffiti. So, obviously, I have to respect protocol, African culture protocol. So, I'm going to have to give it to the matriarch. I think it's you, Mams Bongile, to be our next speaker and break down what are the challenges. You've been in the music industry, I don't know, like I'm sure over 40 years now. So we would love to get some of your wisdom and your love and your encouragement and some of the battles that you fought for us to please do touch into those. We appreciate the work that you do. Molo, ma'am.
Good morning, Molweni, Sanbanan. Um, I've been in the music industry since I was in the womb, so that would be 54 years because I was born into a music family, and it's for me, it's not a career, it's a lifestyle. And that's why my responses to some of the carelessness around it are so strong because to me, it's a lifestyle, it's a lifeline. Um, some people need to breathe. I need to sing. If I don't sing, I can't breathe. If I can't breathe, I can't sing. So it goes hand in hand. And that's why I'm always so upset about how this country does not take care of its art because creatives are as close as you will get to God because they have understood the mandate of creation. So we were created to create. Yes, people are born, they work, they die. Tina, we are born, we keep creating because we are created to create like the one who created us. So whatever we do must create something good. Whatever we do must bring something new. It must born something else. So, I I never look at my music as a job or work. It is my life. And the challenges that I've seen in this country have more to do with ignorance and carelessness. The Bible talks about being your brother's keeper. When you are careless with your brother, you are careless with everything that concerns them. And that is what this country has become. It has become so careless. There's no keeping of the brother. There is no looking after each other to ensure we are safe. You shouldn't have to worry about where am I getting my materials to do my graffiti. The graffiti should be part of the social framework because it speaks and words are creative. So, because it speaks, it should be allowed. It should breathe the whole time. There was a time when graffiti artists were arrested. They would run because they were being arrested because we won't allow art to breathe. And that for me is part of the irritation of lack of care. And yesterday I did a live and I was saying that I don't even know why we have a department called the Department of Arts and Culture because there is a mandate to having a department like that. If you're going to put billions of rands on something like that, there's got to be a vision, there's got to be a plan, there's got to be direction. If there's no vision, there's no plan, there's no direction. You are opening up a can of worms where people are then being legally given a right to steal. Now, if you're giving people a right to steal, and then you turn around and you say you're going to launch an investigation into how they are misusing funds, then the hypocrite is you who is giving them a legal framework to steal because you are legitimizing crime. So when it comes to art, when it comes to creativity, the way government has treated the arts is they have legalized crime and criminality in that space. We have made it normal to turn our children, our society into addicts, drunkards, and people who are reliant upon crutches because we will not allow them to create freely and proudly because we enable a proud nation that creates and are able to own it because the rest of the world looks at us and they love what we do, but we and our own don't do that. So for 54 years of my life, I have watched us being nullified by a nation that has forgotten its identity and has bought into everything else but us. That is why the arts in South Africa are suffering. So, as a musician, what do? You keep singing. You keep singing because that's your lifeline. As a dancer, what do? You keep dancing because that is your lifeline. As an actor, you keep doing that because that's your lifeline. As a painter, you keep doing that because that is the one thing that will keep you sane. It's the one thing that keeps you alive when everything else is trying to pull you under, when everyone else is trying to make you feel less than. When you are the highest creative, then everyone else is feeling less than because they feel that they have to prove a point. That's why people need all these degrees. They need the doctorate and the doctorate upon doctorate upon doctorate. We don't. We can have them. We have the qualifications, yes. But before the qualifications, we have the one thing that does not make sense, and that is the gift. That is the talent. Nobody can take that away from you. Even the ones that refuse to acknowledge it because it doesn't fit into their little boxes of what it looks like to be an artist of stature. So, look, what do? We keep going. So, yes, we will fight because we're fighting for survival here. And survival of the fittest for us is not fighting and just falling on your sword. It is more about the breath cannot stop. And the breath is the art. The breath is the creativity. So that is what we do. And that is why I fight as hard as I do. I don't fight so much because of the money they steal, because they've legalized crime. I fight because you have to keep the artist breathing. So the art has to live.
Oh, thank you. Yo, exactly. Thank you for reminding us why we do what we do and that it heals us first. Whoa, thank you. Futbongani, do you want to jump in there? Good morning, and thank you for joining. Oh, and I must acknowledge another Black Panther. Thank you so much for joining the session. Futbongani, Savona. Oh, you're muted. And then I must remind the audience as well, but you must ask the guests your questions, please. You know that's important. So please comment down below and we will hear from you and get the guests participating. Futbongani, Savona.
Lotshani ngiyanilotshisa abantu bekhethu nivukile na awazithokoze sisibongile because you are a few years my senior, just a few years my senior. I really enjoyed your presentation. As creators, we are the closest to the one who created the earth, and I think that's where our problems start. As creators, it starts there. There's a huge element of fear in this country, especially from the political front, the fear of the creators, because you must remember, maybe to give a bit of a background, where does this fear stems from? During the liberation struggle, the arts played a very crucial role in elevating the voices and making the world aware of what was happening in this country. And I was lucky enough to have had a conversation with Lifi at some point. And then he said, this is what he said to me. He said, do you know that Oliver Tambo advised the ANC that they must prioritize the Department of Culture, not Arts and Culture, Department of Culture. When they come back to the country and start governing, they must prioritize the Department of Culture. Because you mentioned a lifestyle. When it's a lifestyle for you. It's not a career. That's a very important point, because culture is lifestyle. It's a way of life, the way we live. you know, and the way we live influences a whole lot of fears in our society. I often use this simple example of a lifestyle. If you take a British uh, culture, for example, they have something they call the British breakfast. What English breakfast? Yes, English breakfast. And then you have English dinners, and then you have English this and English that. Now, if you look at all those things, there's an economy involved in that. English breakfast is what? Eggs and whatever. Now, if you talk about an English dinner, there's a tablecloth there, there's a spoon, there's a table, there's a jacket, there's wine. All of those are economies. You've boosted economies there, right there, when you push that culture. So it makes sense that Oliver Tambo would say prioritize culture. Because if you've prioritized culture, it means you've prioritized the economy of that country. And once you've prioritized the economy of that country, you've prioritized the livelihood of the people of that country. So you will have less unemployment in that country because their culture is dominant, meaning that they are consuming almost anything and everything that has to do with them. And you are able to also export that culture into other parts of the world. Now, the fear I mentioned earlier, it's the fear, you know, when you have too many artists that have a voice, that is, they don't have fear of being shut down, as in their source of income will be shut down. If you have too many of those artists, it means you will have too many voices that will expose your shenanigans, right? So what do? You limit opportunities for artists to thrive so that they live in fear, so they hold on, they keep their voices, they keep silent, because they want what? That pittance of a grant that government gives them year after year. And some people wonder why most projects are not sustainable. It's because they don't give you the kind of money that will make it possible for you not to depend on the grant as time goes on. Because, I mean, business people tell you that it takes 3 to 5 years to establish a self-sustaining business. Now, if you're going to be given a grant for 1 year and that grant is not even sufficient for that particular year, how are you going to be sustainable in what you do? And I think we have to reach a point where we realize that as creatives and as artists, we are more powerful than politicians and more powerful than most people think. And one of the things I think I learned from Ray Peary was that the band Stimela was not built by a radio station or the media. The band Stimela was built by the people. Because Stimela started going to campuses to perform, and that's where the name and the band was built. And people started demanding to hear the music of Stimela in radio stations. So where I'm getting with this is that as artists, and I think Sansa mentioned it a bit earlier, as artists, we need to go back to the source of our power, and the source of our power is the audience. You need to start going to the audience where the audience is and presenting our art to the audience, because the audience will then start consuming our art and what we have to offer to them. And that's what we're doing with German Jazz. We're going to the audience. German Jazz, by the way, Nzigi will know, is an event that we started 3 years ago. You know, it's a struggle. It's a huge struggle, and we're not complaining about it. But because we're going to the audience and the audience is appreciating and they're saying, this is what we've wanted. Because artists hardly come to, and when I say going to the audience, I mean going to Skukuni in some rural area there and giving the audience our art. Because in most cases, we are concentrated in the urban areas and we've forgotten people in the rural areas and in some of our townships. And that's where the bulk of our audience is. And the more we're connected with our audience is the more we gain the power that we need to be able to continue to do what we do and to be able to freely express ourselves. I think let me pause here I've said a lot, and give other speakers a chance.
Oh, please be free, be free. And other speakers, if you want to engage points from other speakers, be free. It's a conversation, so please don't hold back. I'm sure we need another woman now. Mamcina, I know people think you're 30-something years old. Abayaz, good day. Mamcina, lo. Babona gogo ninjani?
Thokozani bantu abadala, thokozani bahlonishwa, thokozani bantu abakhulu. Firstly, I would like to apologize for joining lentozana sekulate. I'm sorry, wouldn't disrespect. I didn't mean to. I was busy running around taking care of izinto ezithile yabo ezimqoka. Yeah, but I sincerely apologize for ukungena late kule lentozana kule ngxoxo ebaluleke kangaka. Can I apologize for something else as well? My English data is always very low, so from time to time ngizobalekela esizulwini because kuyekucima ibani laphaya kwa Queen Elizabeth. Ngiyabona. Yeah, let's see. Can I start by mhlambe acknowledging the things that have been articulated on this platform? Ngicela ukuqala ngobhuti ngenhla ubhuti senza 9111 ngingene sowuphakathi nenkulumo, but I loved what you said about grabbing opportunities that are readily available at a particular time. Noguti, like as an artist or as a creative or as a brand, you need to be out there. You understand, seeking out opportunities, exposure, and all of that. Young inspire Leonto, because sometimes I tend to, when it gets too much, you understand that. When I feel like I can no longer breathe, as usisibongile eke wayithinta indaba yokuphefumula ukuthi art is our oxygen, I tend to like pull back and isolate myself, ngizivalele endlini, uyangithola. But now after ngizwa lokho kubile ngokuba out there, I'm inspired ukuthi hey konje ukuzivalela endlini is not gonna help with anything. Thanks for that Butwami. Siswami, hey uye waqeqebula ube sethini umuntu emva kwakho, like you articulated the whole thing so beautifully. Like, what a powerful presentation. Yes, the art is our oxygen, siphefumula yona, but now when the oxygen gets contaminated, what do you do? Because that's where I'm at. Do you get? Like, I feel like, okay, I need to breathe, but I cannot because it has been poisoned. It has been deliberately poisoned so that I should stop breathing. You understand? Completely. Ngiyayithanda into ithintile ukuthi they've legalized ubugebengu. How painful is that? Ukuthi umthetho is backing criminals, abantu abaphuca abantu ilentozana isinkwa emlonyeni. You know, I would love to touch on ngisakhuluma khona lapha. I'd love to touch on indaba yama royalties. Uyasebenza and then akwenzakali lutho, like there's repeats. The work that you've been doing is being aired all over the world. There's people who are dubbing umsebenzi owenzile, and you're being watched in Nigeria, in Ghana, nomilaphi. And then you thingy ukhuluma ne-executive producer yalowo msebenzi ukuthi wait, ikhona into esizoyithola. Surely we are gonna get something, I mean, from lento eyenzakalayo, and they pretend as if they have no idea what you're talking about to begin with. The whole executive producer pretends as if he's not aware of the fact that lo msebenzi awuproducile wena actor kuwona is being lentozana is being dubbed, and it's gonna get lentozana airplay all over the world or all over the continent, and you're like, oh wow, okay, islima islimu bani lana. And then angithi some of us sabalingisi, but then again we are singers, and then we are dancers as well. You say, let me make an example, and I'm talking from experience. You are in a production, and then you are asked ukuthi, oh, because there's music or there's a song, you are asked to come up with like a song, you know. You give them the lyrics, you give them the melody, and you sing the song, but you don't get anything. You don't get anything out of that. I think it touches on, Nizom correct, but I think it touches on Indaba, intellectual property. These are your lyrics, this is your melody, and you are the performer who your this lentozana, this work that you've put together, but you don't get a single cent, and nobody says anything about it. It just gets brushed off. Kube ngathi akwenzakalanga nix, or it's like it's part of what you have been hired to do. Like izinto ezimangazayo, again, izinto zama repeats, kunama repeats yonke indawo, and then you want to go and claim nawe, and then you are told, oh no, imali yama repeats itholwa ama lead actors kuphela. And like, mayidlali repeat, is it just the lead actors ezivelayo escreening? Do other people just disappear? Mina, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like I strongly believe that each and every person that was involved in that particular production should get something. Nomuntu obekade eshanela, nalo babo security obekade egate, nomuntu obenza itiye, each and every person that was involved in that production should be compensated, because each one of them played a vital role in putting that whole production together. So enye nje into engilahlayo engizibuza ukuthi izolungiswa kanjani. Again, another a problem we face some artists, because some of us are not necessarily celebrities and influencers. We are artists, but then we get to compete with influencers, and then a person will get a role according to the following that they have on social media. Come on, can't my talent speak for itself, for goodness sakes? Segmenting moves we following, even the rate, it gets down to whereby you are trying to negotiate a decent rate, and you'll be asked, if following yakwithini ku-IG kusibani, and like, what does that have to do with anything? Or what does that have to do with the talent or the skill and the experience that I'm putting on the table, or that I'm bringing into this production? Angali, it's important. I think it's important to have people with production yakho owaziyo ukuthi bazoyithengisa ishow, because of the influence that they have, because of their understanding, the exposure abanayo. But then again, that cannot be the main thing. Mhlawumbe wrong, maybe I'm just being too sensitive and ngithatha personally lento, I do not know. But why talent kungaphusha talent kuqala phambili? Sometimes kwezinye indawo it gets to a point whereby you need to be as plastic as you possibly can be, because the authentic look ungathi ayinayo i-appeal, ayidlisi. Kumele ube yi-yellow bone, so thina mina njengoba nginje kumele ngizibleach skin, ngiziphucule so that I'm accepted kwi-industry and kuya-actwa la, but sekumele ngibe nebala elimhlophe. Ku-act ibala lami na? Well, if you're looking for i-yellow bone ukudlala that particular character, I mean, anginankinga, I don't have any problem. But manje, why kungathi kunale culture yokuthi bonke abantu kumele baba ama-yellow bone, bafaka ama-frontal, ama-eyelashes, everybody just needs to look plastic. Sekwenzakaleni manje? It looks like sekune shift ekhona. I thought this was about the acting lentozana art form, but sesimuvele to, I don't even know whether to call it i-beauty noma ngiyibizeni, anginalo igama layo lento eyenzakalayo, but kuningi, I think I've said a mouthful. Ngicela ukuma khona lapho.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Because they shame you if you don't become plastic. Budlaki, Sabona Music Jam. Please, can you tell us about the journey and how, as a music organizer, you can stay in the game for long? Good morning.
Sanbalan. I hope everybody's well. Ngiyabonga to be invited into this session. I mean, it's bonga kakhulu, you know. I'll be a bit shorter on I'm not a good speaker. Let me just put it simple and straight. As I represent the movement, the Savona Music Jam, we've been doing this project for more than 13 years. We're not complaining as such, because we're aware that as musicians, we actually part of, I would say, mental health concept that's happening, because most of musicians are depressed. You know, so we're not aware of that. That's why somehow, when we engage on such conversation, we'll sound like we're complaining. You know, we don't have a way forward. We're not designing frameworks to move. You know, so I'm glad to be part of this, to share a bit of my mind, you know, with elders here, Siabonga, with much respect, much acknowledge to everybody who has at least shared some nice input. Not cool in a way, Yabon. So yeah, so Sabona Music Jam, basically it's a space that has been created because of lack of live music venues. Basically, there's a lack of live music venues in most of our townships. There's a lot of reasons that actually izinto eziningi ezisarroundile in townships. Noma ufuna ukuyutilize ihholo nje elinormal nje lasekhaya kumele uhave. Yabona, so you know that's a straightforward. Because you know, before you try to put up a show, you have to have a certain budget to do that. So we decided to develop the project in a backyard, you know, in Soweto, Shawela, whereby every Tuesday we have our own session. We play live. We've been doing this for quite a while. And then it's a space that has developed a lot of quite well-known musicians and others who are not known, but they're amazing because there's so much talent within our communities. And it's a space whereby I see embrace, since it's a backyard venue. See embrace everybody that it's a creative, as a musician, that they can play instrument, that it's a poet, or either as an artist. Let me just put it like that. Not locals, but the space have attracted even the global audience in terms of kunokusuka ama-musician from abroad. We normally ngabujuni kanje si-host amanye ama-musician from states. They always come and engage with us, and on that point, basically, we are a project that never got funded, actually, since we started for the past 13 years. As guys have only been a 10 rand from any institutions out there. It's fine, but we're still pushing, we're still sustaining. We are aware about everything that's happening. Hayi ukuthi asibone sibhekile yabona sithulile siyababona nalabantu abathola iy'mali sizibuze ukuthi manje le mali lezi abazitholayo bazenzani bona yabona ngoba sibona next into abazenzayo yabona akuna-next nje akubonakali next yabona abathola iy'mali bazilele zona and abantu abangatholi iy'mali because uNkulunkulu usiphile le gift le and usiphile ispirit sokuthi sishare yabona thina as ama-musician ubuntu nje bungaphakathi kuthina yabona yabona akusiyo something okumele siyifunde yabona it's something that it's internal so we are able to share a bit of what we have with our own other colleagues or siblings around ourselves. So it's a basically. It's there for musicians actually and artists. And then my point that I would like to hear from the panel and everybody with Basboni. So I think as musicians we lack frameworks. We lack the modeling of engagement. Somewhere, once if we can design a business model engaspanela for sonke, you know what I'm saying? Abangenalwazi, it's good we have to go out there and seek advice because these frameworks are there. So if we develop systems, engagement systems, for the past years, I would say decades, coming back from about 40s, 50s, ama-artist aqala ukusimela imali ngama-70s, 80s, 90s, you know what I'm saying? But we never developed engagement frameworks. Ukuthi singa-unite kanjani, you know what I'm saying? So somewhere, somehow, if we can develop such and then have maybe if we're not aware, because we're not academics, in a way, we're not in an academic circle. We have to seek some advice, some certain institution to come on board and just bas align nje kuma-frameworks ukuthi how to design certain working frameworks. Yabona sizokhona uku-engage sibe united. That's my take basically. Because if we can get that business model working, everybody is gonna have a space in operation. It's okay with whatsoever that I do. This is where I can fit. You know what I'm saying? If I don't have so much knowledge about it, let me just have an advice to come and say, okay, since this is how you can work on your thing. So I think one of those things is ingenza ukuthi sibe imbumba ngandlela thize nje yabona ngoba that's what it lacks yabona hayi ukuthi in this industry we cannot be united. We can, because we have different genres of sounds, from maskande to jazz to any other traditional sounds. We don't have to exclude that, because I think that's my mind. That's my assumption. Maybe the academia, they think that the good musicians, ile abantu abadlala jazz. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Paul Simon umageza la eMzansi uyowalanda ama-jazz musicians. Cha. The best ever global album ever produced. Bedlalwa abantu abadlala isintu. So let's find a way to unite ourselves, and make it work. I think it's ngibambe lapho, let me just hear from others. Thank you.
So you've raised such hardcore points, because we do need to please tap into the depression that artists are going through. It's not normal that artists are drinking so much, musicians especially. It's not normal that alcohol goes hand in hand with the change room and the hospitality rider. It's not normal. We can't be drinking at all the gigs. There's something a little bit wrong. And just before I let you Uibambe, but I wanted to know, because your journey has been interesting in that you started off as a musician, but now you've managed to build this business model that has been able to sustain you and to actually make your art into a business. So can you just give us a bit of insight into how do you move your talent into something you can monetize?
I've been in the industry for a while, Sister Ntiki, for more than 40 years and apart. When I started it, I think I was 12 years old, so I was part of his Splash. I mean, we did a lot of hits back in the days. I worked with Sankomota by then, Uprenda, our sister Yvonne, Sase Publicam, so my journey has been long. I grew up in this industry. I saw it all. I've been into this. And then we went to a global tours. I've experienced and witnessed a lot of quite amazing things out there. And then I've actually saw the loopholes amongst ourselves. Because lento ayiqali namhlanje, kudala yayiqala. Back in the, kusaseyibhabukanga. Because thina actually besi-administrate ama-record labels. Yibo bebasihlanganisa kahle kahle. Yabona basi-administratela zonke lezi zinto lezi. Thina, we were just worried about making this music, making the hits. Just keep on. So that's where after a couple of years, we was part of I got a scholarship basically to go and start a business at Henley. That's where I saw the importance of designing certain frameworks, because to engage with a corporate, we need to have frameworks that are gonna at least enable us to have that common language that they understand, the corporate world. And not amongst ourselves, we need that. We need to understand certain things. Because united, we need to design those framework systems. Because without systems, honestly, to the bigger system of which it's, let me just put it to arts and culture, masikhuluma kanje kulama conference kanje bezwe ngathi siya-complain. You know what I'm saying? Bona basizwa njengabantu aba-complainayo ukuthi ama-musician a-complaina nje kuphela. You know what I'm saying? They're not coming with something a functional, abastart, because bona ba-advise ama-scholars. Academia is playing a huge role in their institutions, and we're not engaging, with academia. So they give us all of these frameworks, so we utilize it for our own gain. We need to, because I believe that's one of the things that unite basically. Please, I'm just on that point with if we can engage on such, that could be something that we can build a future for another generation, basically, especially something.
Thank you, Budlaki. Yes, yes, Mam Tina. Oh, unmute, unmute, unmute. Mam Tina, asikuzwa, unmute. You're gonna have to start again. Unmute. Okay, here.
Right.
There.
Can you hear me
Unmute.
now?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I would love to quickly respond to the two important points ezirezwe abobhuti Bongani naye ubhuti Lucky. Let me start with Indaba unification of artists. Guys, can you believe that kunama artists who brazenly lentozana say mina ngifuni lezi zinto zokuhlangana namanye ama-artist. Mina I'm here for myself because they feel it's cramping their style. Angithi this is a vain industry. Kunama-egos, kunani, kunalama-artists azibona renka le phezulu. Now, when it comes to izinto zokuthi let's unite and fight these people, kuba i-problem because ikwenza ulingane nawo wonke umuntu, ulingana noquqaba, and they do not want that. So bakhona basho kanjalo nje ukuthi ayanikahle ngalezo zinto. Yeah, so we still have a long way to go because even amongst us, there are those who are totally against Indaba unification. Yama artists. Moving right along, we point depression. Thanks, my brother, for touching on that. It's a reality. Iguma musicians, iguma actors, yacabanga nakwa-dance mhlambi khona njalo njalo. It's very interesting that there's an organization engizwe, and this is from a reliable source, engezwa actually ngezwa phambilini ukuthi they offer counseling, they offer financial aid, they offer ama-food parcels. I personally reached out to them ngesikhathi sivunguvungu sisangibambile vele namanje, but I remember I reached out to them, seeking financial aid and food parcels, and wangitshela kahle untombazane efonini wathi, oh no, we don't offer food parcels, we don't offer financial aid, we only offer counseling. Ne? So one would then ask ukuthi le organization umsebenzi wayo yini, because ngiyazwa kuthiwa they got something to the tune of 18 million. And imali okumele isize ama-artists that are in distress, ama-artists adinga i-counseling, ama-artists adinga ukudla, ama-artists adinga i-financial aid. Leyo mali asazi bayiravaze kudla kuni, asazi bayidle kudla kuni, but ikhona i-organization that was given money. We understand that imali yokuthini kunakekelwe ama-artists alwa ne-depression, anikezwe i-counseling, kubonwe nalapho ukuthi kuzokwenziwa kanjani. Ngiyangithola ngithi so kuningi, but I felt ukuthi yeah, this is the right time to bring this up ukuthi kuzwakala ukuthi siyayazi sonke yini lento. Ngicela ukuma lapho.
To know, Guti, is there an establishment? Is this something that we can report to the public protector or something? Since it's a government-funded initiative, is that because we keep protecting people's names and people are just eating our money? Even there at Samro, people were eating the money. Mams Bongile, I hand the mic over to you.
Okay, so on the issue of Silapa, the current minister, has put a stop to that thingy because they were getting 500,000 a month for the past couple of years. 500,000 a month for the well-being of artists, and yeah, they proudly said that they were not offering any kind of help except for counseling. Now, that same counseling that you would need to have your own resources to access. So I'm not sure what that 500,000 was supposed to be doing in that instance, but the minister has put a halt to it But if you're looking for accountability, I doubt it's going to happen because that's just not how those people are wired. There's no accountability. And then on the issue of unification, I've always said that I think that's the wrong conversation. Let's leave the unification alone. Let's think outside the box. So, most times when there's a fundraiser, they will come and fetch us, I'm an artist, to come and do something, perform, do your art to assist the fundraising. So, Mina would say, let's channel our creativity towards our own fundraisers. If we need to have exhibitions of the artworks, let's do that. If we need to have festivals, let's do that, but let's do our own because the ones that are there are not ours. And the money that is raised there is not ours. So you will have a government department raising funds using the same artists, and yet they already have billions as a department. So that money is not reaching us. So let's rechannel and repurpose our skills towards self help. So to answer you, Lucky, I would say let's repurpose and rechannel our resources towards ourselves. And then to answer you, Trina, let's not be victims because we become victims because we are refusing to own our power and our authority as the closest to the creator. We already have ideas. So let's use our ideas. So this thing of unification doesn't work anywhere else. Check how corporates work. You will never hear any corporate talking about unification. They talk about profits. Look at the government itself. The government departments are never talking about unification. They're talking about the GDP. So, what unification is this that we talk of when we're talking about artists? Right now, we have a GNU. That GNU is not about unification, it's about existing together in harmony so that we figure out how to loot together. Then we don't fight about positions. So ours now is to figure out how to then work together in harmony so that we thrive together. We won't loot together, but we can thrive together. So Mina, my answer to that would be let's think outside the box, leave out politicians' languages of unification. Let's talk about how do we make you monetize. But the one thing that Ulaki does not touch on is the fact that as someone who's running a business in our sector, 9 out of 10 times you are in debt. 9 out of 10 times you are in debt. Catching up with paying. It's a fact. I know. I produce shows. I know. So I'm also a business person in this space. That's why I'm always like, I'm not looking for their money because I know how to make money, but I am looking for them to stop interfering so that I can work freely. Because the problem is not that they have money. The problem is that they use their money to block what we do because what we do exposes
Yes.
the fact that they are not as good as we are. So they will block whatever we do. So while they are united in looting, let's be united in building and working something that is good. For a change, let's just show them a different blueprint of what it looks like when people work together for good this time.
I want to ask
Right.
about, oh,
That's the point. I agree. I totally agree. We have to be aware that we are a business, basically. We have to be aware of that. We have all the resources to go out there and just do it. You know what I'm saying? So that was my perspective, basically. You know, that's our perspective. We've been, I mean, to be honest with you, uh, 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 they are not even ashamed to do that. That Usisbongile just said, to 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 loot confidentially. Uyabona balutha basibheke basmile bathi angeke benze next that. Uyabona into ezinjalo. So we have to be aware that we have all the resources. You know, uma ngikhuluma nge-unity, Mam Sibongi, ngizama ukuthi uh, it's for those who are aware, and those who actually are active, who wants to make the change really happen. Because what happens on our spaces as a Sabona Music Jam, for the first time, you know, I mean, we're proud of that. We actually having a funeral policy for our artists as Sabona Music Jam, you know, with APRTR from the Northwest. You know, we have covered our artists as Sabona Music Jam without none of these other institutions. You know, because we're aware, you know, let them loot, proudly do that, and then Nati let's bury ourselves decently. Yabona kungabi indaba zamagazathi. Because we are aware of that. So we do engage with other businesses to make sure ukuthi artists they are well. Sibabhekene nabo nathi, because we are part of it, not ukuthi we are organizers, but we are the artists ourselves. So I fully agree with what Usisbongile is saying. Ukuthi let's those who are aware, let's engage and try to make it work, because it works. We have seen it. It works. It works. Undoubtedly. It won't even take more than 3 years to, you know, it takes actually season. If we can put something like 10 shows, I'm telling you, only 10 shows. Only 10, because we have all the resources. Honest. This thing is doable. So ithi ngibambe lapho ngizwe nje ama-comments from others, sisibone ukuthi, you know, how can we make it work? Because see, we are making it work. We are doing it. We won't stop now. Now, as long as happy, because I mean, lento yithi uNkulunkulu usiphile, and then we have to be the voice out there. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm sorry I keep disappearing. Kona, this technical thing that keeps happening. You know, I know this is so petty, Mamsbongile, because you actually raise it. You raise this that we must rise above the negative energy, right? But then, can I just like look border? Because what happens is that there are these major labels, white capital monopoly, basically, that invest in some of us, right? Then when one artist gets monetary capital investment in them, then they've got nice clothes, they've got nice houses, nice cars, and they create a better artist, better than the other children. And that's the situation that creates this thing where now the other children who are in the majority, who haven't been empowered like that one black coffee, you know, the other children now, but now they're still in the township, in the ghetto, but then there's this billboard, Gucci, no, you can be a musician, but they don't mention Gucci, it's actually just one of us at a time. And then when the other children now are suffering and they need this one musician who's got so much power and coverage to join in the struggle of, I mean, for example, Samro, you can see what we're all busy fighting with there, but you never see the big stars there because Bangang is Ingwa or something. So how do we like be better people around this situation where we have been set up against each other?
Okay. I think again it goes back to we need a reset. We really need a reset because we they create this mindset that we must all buy into and we must buy it and we believe them. And then we start thinking that we can't move beyond that. We cannot establish anything else. Aspalela, who asked Sambro to collect our money? Now we have to be members of Sambro. Who asked Sambro to collect our money? I have to be a member of Sambro to get my money from Sambro that I did not ask to collect my money. If my money is sitting at the SABC, if my money is sitting at the venue Sawubona Music Jam, if my money is sitting at whoever's studio, can I just go fetch my own money without Sambro and my Sambro? On top of that, Sambro has decided to go fetch my money. And then when I go to Sambro to fetch my money, firstly I have to join Sambro to become a member of Sambro. And then Sambro has all these people who are deciding on my behalf how I collect my money from Sambro. Do you understand? There's a research here that needs to happen. There's something very wrong. We are dealing with narcissists who are abusing us and treating us like we are crazy. Let's get slide. And then on top of that, once you get there to collect your money, now you've joined Samro that has asked you to join them because they've collected your money without your permission. And then they've already set up a leadership structure that tells you how to collect your money from them. When now you're supposed to collect their money, they still take a commission out of your money. Naleyo malilayo, they will not tell you that it's there unless you go ask them that is my money there, because it has to sit in their bank account and generate interest. So there's a research that needs to happen here where literally artists have to stand up and say, please don't collect mine. Yes, you can collect other people's money. When you go to SABC, tell them you are not collecting for Sponile, but they don't do that. They collect for everybody. So there's a reset that needs to happen there. SAMRA has to be, first of all, held to account for all the monies they collected without permission and all the interest they've generated since their inception. And their whole model of membership that does not allow everybody to collect their money equally, because what they are doing is you become a certain type of membership to access a certain amount of money. So there's a lot that's going wrong there. And then this whole thing of, and then these record labels, you have the majors and the minors and the independents and this and that. If only we all just understood that it's what they're selling us that we are buying that is disadvantaging us. If we didn't buy, they wouldn't have anything to sell, because economics tell you there's supply, there's demand. If there is demand, then there will be supply. It's a catch-22. So for you to get out of that chain, you have to say, I don't want it. And this is what we have not understood as our power supply, is that we are able to say, I don't want it. I don't want any part of it. I saw one of the comments that were written, we should have our own medical aid. I hear, like you're saying, you have their own funeral plan. I think it's good that you do. I think it's great that somebody's talking about medical aid and funeral covers. Here's my thing. Before all of these things were introduced by somebody who created a demand for the supply, how were people dealing with those things? Were people not being buried? Were people not going to the doctor? So we need to go back to the drawing board and saying, okay, then how do we work with doctors without the medical aid if I don't have a stable income that then covers my medical aid and my funeral cover? So how did they do that? And then have those kinds of relationship with the people that we need services from, where we say, as a doctor, What do you need from us that would assist your business? How do we promote you so that you are able to cover us as artists? How do we how do we promote your business so that you are able to then bury our brothers and sisters without the gazette? How do we do all of these things? Because medical aid and funeral cover, it still requires a monthly something, a money that we don't have because we don't have a steady supply as people who gig. So when you're not gigging and it's dry, then your policy elapses. So how do we then protect our people? So yes, you are right. Like we need to find a way to then come together to say how do we then cover annually our people? And yes, we do have to cut the knees of people like Samuel to say, stop it. I don't want you collecting my money. And if we did that, during lockdown, they wanted head mentality. Can we have head movement of a maximum number of artists saying, Sembra, don't collect our money? And let's see, even the superstars, how then are they covered when our interest is not generating the money that is keeping Sembra functional? Because it is our two senses, our two bulbs, our five senses that keep those businesses alive. Because if it was just one artist doing that, they would go fetch their money and that's it. Bye bye Sambro. But with our two senses and our five senses, this is what keeps their business alive. That's why they need the membership of thousands of artists. So it's time to it's just a paradigm shift. We need the way we think to shift from this is how it's always been done to what is the way that we can do it so that we can see the benefits and enjoy them, not just watch, because we watch like spectators, other people having a great laugh, and we are not. Why is that? It's because we have not required them to not make us spectators. Othi lo baba lo wale ncwadi ethi think like a man. You have not required him to marry you. We have not required them to stop treating us like spectators. It's time to require them to stop treating us like spectators. We need to require ourselves to become active participants.
I'm gonna ask Bongani to please bring his voice back in. Thank you so much. Bongs, we are unpacking this.
Yes, I wanted to just chip in on the issue of medical aid. It's something that has always troubled me. Government collect taxes under the impression that they want to render services for society. And public hospitals are part of the services that they are supposed to be rendering for us. Now, for public hospitals to be in the conditions that they are in today, you have to ask yourself, how did it get there and why is it there? Sisbongile spoke about supply and demand. So let's take the security, start from security to health and education. If you had a lot of artists who are free to express their mind, as I would express my mind now, we will be able to point out that it looks like there's a deliberate mission to make sure public education is horrendous, security is horrendous, public health is horrendous, so that you move to private schooling, private health, and private security. Now, you also have to then start looking at who are the shareholders in these institutions. You will find some of these politicians there. They are shareholders, private schools, private security, private health, right? So basically, you are promised a service that is not delivered, but there's no one who really raises a voice loud enough to say, hang on, I'm already paying for this. So why am I supposed to go and pay private companies for something that I'm already paying for through VAT, through tax? and other charges, because you get to hospital, public hospitals, they will tell you have to pay 60 rands or 70 rands or something like that, right? So you still pay for these, but at the same time, you are expected to have a medical aid to pay for a service that you are already paying for. So I think we need to move to a space where we say private healthcare is not the best thing per se, if we look at it, because remember, those funds, the medical aid, they get finished at some point, and you are sent back to the very same public hospital that you were trying to avoid. Once your funds are finished in this medical aid, you go back to the very same public hospital that you've been paying all these years huge amounts of money, trying to avoid public hospitals. So I think the some of the solutions lie in us confronting the problems right from where they stem from. So if government is collecting taxes and VAT and making us pay 60 rands at hospitals and still giving us a horrible service, we need to raise our voice against that and say, no, you cannot be doing this because you want to push us to private healthcare, private security, and private education because you are shareholders there. So you want to maximize your profits by pushing us there. So you deliberately make sure that public services are bad. So as the voices in the arts, because the media, the media as we know it now today, I've made this point at some point that the media, as in newspapers and television and all that, it's pretty much new media. The artist is the oldest media. The original media is the artist. When you listen to stories of our history, you will be told there will be a particular poet in a community whose responsibility was to narrate the history and the stories of that community. The painter who does that, the musician, the dancer so those are the oldest. That's the oldest media. The art is the oldest media. And we have to take back our responsibility to start reporting some of these very important issues to enlighten our people. I remember Gloria Bosman used to say to me, hey, we am Tanda lo Phuze Khemisi wako. But the reason I liked Phuze Khemisi, and I still like Phuze Khemisi, it's because Phuze Khemisi used to narrate stories as they are. But then there's another one, which for me is very important. Kule lizwe lobabomkhulu sesabuswa zigebengu. Sisibongile, what did you say about crime, legalized crime against us? So now, Phuze Khemisi. Now, you said, Sisibongile, we don't have to gain degrees and all that. Phuze Khemisi used to work in a factory. But look at that, listen to that message. Niqabane mapitoli bese kujika kufathini. Kule lizwe lobabomkhulu sesabuswa zigebengu. Now, right there, you have a problem for politicians. You have a problem for people who are out to make sure that they loot and vandalize us as communities. So the power that I was mentioning earlier on about how powerful we are and where our problems begin stems from there. Because when we are not dependent on government or dependent on anyone for our survival, we are able to then spread and disseminate knowledge and information that enlightens people about what's happening around them. So the self-reliance is important, Pralaki. We should start doing our own things, and I think Sisbongile also mentioned that. It's important that we start doing our own things and become independent from people who want to muffle our voices, so that we are able to do what we exactly came here to do, to answer our call of disseminating enlightening information and knowledge to people so that they make informed decisions and choices about how they live their life during their time. Ngiyabonga.
Kamaku, I will allow people to engage with each other, but there's one thing I wanted to find out, Uti. So now we have figured that there's left side people and right side of the brain people, and we are right side brain people. So how do we live in a world where the people who work with the left side of the brain, where they've got like a set way that they think, don't exploit the fact that we are fairies and we are, because I mean, for now, even now, for example, on screens, one of our artists has now left the stream, and I can assure you that behind there, he's busy doing his art. So we don't want to. That's what I was saying. I knew it. I knew you were spray painting and listening. So we are really, our work is to spray paint, it's to write songs, it's to make music, it's to, you know, but now we are expected to now have the left side of the brain because the left brainers are being irresponsible and abusing us. So how are we going to navigate this line? Because really it's not in us to be like this. And I mean, it's even hard with the artist Indaba. People just want to do their art. People just want to make songs. People, you know, people are bored about the admin side, and that is where our problem is. So how do we tackle that?
I think the issue is relevance. Relevance. You see, uthi ubhuti bangani uthi uphuza khemisi. Bafike baxabane bodwa ePitori bese kuzoxakeka thina. Ithi ladies meet black mambazo. Oh, no, Yayazi leyo ngoma. Do you know that song? Oh, uma bengahlangana beno kungenzeka, you know. So there's a lot of commentary, social commentary in the music. It's the relevance. Yes, Black Mambazo made a mark on the international market because of their distinctive sound, but it was also because of their distinctive message. Paul Simon, you mentioned earlier, did not come out to look for jazz musicians. He came to look out for relevant musicians. Oti Oprahu, when he arrived in the States while he was studying, he wanted to play like Obani Nobani that he knew from when he got his first trumpet from Father Halston. But when he got there, they wanted to hear that signature tune Yaga Prayu because it was relevant. We have lost our relevance because we want to be like everybody else. Everybody is an influencer because they look and sound and do exactly the same thing with their fake eyelashes and their eyebrows that are up to their hairlines and their lace wig and. So everybody wants to be assembly line people who are irrelevant, hence the numbers. The work that you want to do, Gina, has nothing to do with your talent, but the fact that it's assembly line. Our storylines are not relevant. They are assembly line. That's why we struggle to watch local content on our live, live streaming platforms. We don't have our own Netflix because we don't know how to be relevant. We want to do what everybody else is doing. And then we don't understand why the left brainers want to treat us the way they do because we are not showing them why it is important to understand the relevance of being different, the relevance of being unique, the relevance of bringing something that nobody else is doing. Oti Osenza, when you go out there, you essentially take up space in places that space is not given. It's not going into a place where they say we are making room for you. You make room for yourself. Find the room to make. Look for the gaps. Occupy the gaps. When I started singing opera, there were no other Black opera singers that were taking space. I had to make room for myself. And I was called a Black voice. And I said, if you can find the color in the voice, then you are correct. If you can't find the color in the voice, if I'm singing and nobody can see me, then there is no Black voice. There's a Black person who can sing your music better than you. So let's make that not a thing, but let's make ourselves relevant in spaces where we are not necessarily welcome. So we have lost our relevance because we want to be a part of. And there is no way we're going to survive if we are a part of. We have to remain outside the frame because that's what art does. Art remains outside of the frame. And I think it's you, Bongani, who said we were the first social commentators. We are the first ones who actually said, what is happening? How is it being done? Is it still relevant? So again, it goes back to a shift in how we think, a shift in how we do things, a shift in even how we communicate with each other. Mina, I'm at a point where I'm saying, I want nothing to do with the Department of Arts and Culture. I want nothing to do with the things of the Department of Arts and Culture. I want nothing to do with mainstream even, because mainstream is exactly how we kill our best artists. The underground of hip hop has always been my best spaces because that is where you will find the best creation of the spoken word. Poets, MCs, everybody is there and they are speaking relevance. And then you take them into the mainstream and then you shut them up and then they start speaking like babies. Nobody wants to listen to a baby. So let's stop mainstreaming ourselves out of relevance. So that would be my response to that one.
Speakers, the mic is open.
Sanibonani ninjani? Again. Yes,
Send
sir.
out.
Yes,
Yeah,
I,
man.
Rafa. Bengicela
Yes,
ukushare
man.
something that is very, very important. And we need to realize this as well as singabantu abamnyama. We are on our own. So now we will need to start occupying our own spaces, transform our own houses into cultural hubs. Because at the end of the day, noma uthi uyaphuma ngaphandle uthi wenzani bazokucindezela uzoba conditioned. So now as phumeni leya mindset, we need that reset, mama ngibonga kakhulu. You know, you mentioned that we need to reset. Our mindset needs to change completely. Because at the end of the day, sikhathi abantwana bethu basey'kolweni babafundisa yonke lento esiyibona esitradeni. Thina sibafundisani. We don't even have time to teach our kids. We have time to teach the youth about our culture. Some of us, we don't even know what is our culture. You know, we need that sihlangane and use our spaces to become that informative and knowledgeable hubs. Because at the end of the day, akekho ozosisiza, yithi kumele sisize and sisize the next generation to come. So now we are here transforming our spaces. Like my house now, I turn my house into a gallery. I turn my house for young artists to come and see ukuthi senza kanjani art, ngibashaye ngama-seminars nyana, ngibathi dwadwa ngama-street, ngibafundise ukudweba, and also teach them how to make their own money. Teach them how to be part of the economy, like, you know, create billboards and stuff so that when something ingena. But ngabe sidepende ku-government, siya bababiza lamahholo lawa awe-government. There are politics, there are red tapes, there's ama-gatekeepers. We are tired. We are old now. I don't want to stress. I need to do something that I know what we are in control of. You understand? So let's turn our spaces into who we are and educate people about what we are and teach them this beautiful vibrancy of multicultural diversity, or of this vibrance of definitely heritage and arts and culture. We are the arts and culture. So therefore, our spaces need to reflect that. Bengicela ukuyivala lapha.
Aye. Perfect, King. You know, my king, on that note, my king, you know, Yabani project is about a music jam king. He has influenced so much. Let's look at Black Lagoon in Pretoria. They've been influenced by Sabona Music Jam to say, you know what, let's just stand and do this. We have Imo Fire in Eastern Cape, Cape Town. Oh, by Obongani, Uniget. Naye ufike Sabona Music Jam. Have learned so much. He went back home. He did it. You know, we have another one in Eppington. You know, Clay. Now he came to Sabona. Have learned. He was so inspired. He went back to Uppington. He did it to his own as well. So we have satellites around Mzansi as influencer a project to create something on our own backyard to say, you know what, without yabona lama tape abawakhiphe hayi ukuthi asiyifuni siyayifuna leya nyuku leya yabona, but we cannot stop. Let's do it. Yabona, you know, on that point, you know, sisibongile uye wakhotha something very vital, and then kimi kwaspaka something ukuthi yazi thini, I wish we could once a month to do a pilot project, so they could see that this thing is possible. To be honest, let's engage and try the pilot project once a month. You know, amongst those who could endorse it to say, Buffett, asizenzeleni somewhere somehow. Let's pilot it and see design the framework then. You know, a business model that us ourselves we could engage with the corporate privately. Sibeke lento lena bayibone ukuthi lento lena is to it works honestly. It works. I mean, I wish we could do that just to implement it. Ngibambe la. Yeah.
Closing remarks, Putbongani. I'm gonna leave the ladies to the end because you know women are the custodians of spirituality. So I definitely want to make sure that when we end, Sialet. Putbongani, closing remarks.
Just to pick on Ralaki's comments, we have to let's keep doing things on our own and relying on ourselves. That's the only way. Nzigi, you will know you were there from the beginning when we started Jam and Jazz, and I've regaled a lot of stories to you about what's the intention and why we're doing Jam and Jazz. The intention there is to rely on ourselves and the importance of identifying a particular market and capitalizing on that market to build what you want to build. You know, there's a huge jazz social club community in South Africa, and it's mostly marginalized. Makrot Mana Collectelo Music, they play on Sundays and they enjoy themselves, but you don't really have a festival that caters for their specific needs and desires. You know, Cape Town Jazz International and Joy of Jazz, they are upper class festivals. There are a lot of people who enjoy jazz in the rural areas, in the townships. They can't afford a Joy of Jazz or a Cape Town International Jazz ticket. So Jam and Jazz steps into the picture to fill in that gap. And the reason it's Jam and Jazz, it's because the jamming part of it then goes back to you, Pralaki, is inspired by events like Bolon, Black Lagoon, and Sawubona Music Jam. I've been there a couple of times during Zigi's birthday at some point. I was there and I liked what I saw there. And as an artist, I've always maintained that, an artist and journalist at the same time, I've always maintained that you cannot put what they call a walk club and be a specific genre music person, especially if you are an artist or a journalist, because influences come from all over the place to influence your art and make it even richer. So that's why it's Jam and Jazz. It's not jazz. German jazz, because then it opens up for all kinds of music styles to be catered for. But the reason why we focus on the jazz club culture, it's because it's such a rich and unique South African culture on how South Africans appreciate jazz, especially in the townships with their jazz social clubs, and they dress up and look nice and come together and dance. And we thought we should package that professionally and try to resell it into the market and into the international community. So as much as we are artists, the commercial element of it is important so that we are able to sustain ourselves by making good profits, so that we don't depend on government and even the corporate. Because remember, the corporate is looking for the very same audience that we are going for. So the more we build this solid audience base for ourselves in the arts, the corporates will have no choice but to come to us, because we have the audience that they are looking for. So those will be my closing remarks.
Yeah, Bulela, Black Panther. The Black Panther. Oh, I muted you. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Sengisivulile. Mina ngicela ukuba ilenja evilaphayo evilapha ukhonkotha, kusho ukuthi ebusuku mazizwa ezinye izinja zizwa kukhona okwenzakalayo la kwi-neighborhood, zivuke zonke izinja zithi hu 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 hu. Iphakame le, angithi lele iphakame ivulile ihleli iyi-one, ithi nami ngisho kanjalo bese iyaphinda iyalala. Ngivumelana nawo wonke umuntu. Kumnandi kakhulu okukhulunywe lana, kujiyile kakhulu. Ngeke ngafunda ngathi bengikwi-classroom. Ngiyazibongela mina. Mhlambe engingakubeka nje kuyisicelo ukuthi engathi sama-artist singayiyeka into yokumonelana, siyeke into yokukhompitha. Umuntu nomuntu unikezwe into yakhe especial, e-unique. All those talents and those gifts, they should complement each other or one another. We understand that. Kumele kuhlangane kube kuhle. Let's learn from one another. Okuningi senikushilo. Mina I'm always willing ukuthi ngifunde from abanye abantu. Ngihlezi ngiyi-sponge. I think iyasiza leyo nto, umuntu uyakhula. Akho la uzothi so wazi yonke into khona kule industry. I think nakwi-life in general, ufunda uze u-transitione, udlulele phambili or ubuyele lawo uqhamuke khona. Again, I think it's important to always remember ukuthi lesiphiwo umuntu anaso asiqhamuki kuyena, kodwa sidluliselwe kuyena. Iy'ngadlangadla aqhamuka kuzo. Ngiyayithanda into uSisibongile ayikhulumile ukuthi singuwo uNkulunkulu thina salofu. Uyabona? So nje kuyinto, it's empowering ukuyazi leyo nto nokuyikhumbula, ngoba I think ngobuningi bethu into esingayazi or masiyazi siyayikhohlwa. So yeah, ngicela nje kube kanjalo. Ngiyazibongela.
Hey, I feel you. Hey, today was inspiring. Thank you to the panel. Today was so inspiring. Siyabulela. Mama Wemtandazo, it's your turn now to close it for us. Thank you so much.
I think you've started something really important here today, Mamia. I would ask you, this would be my request after today's conversation. Can you please set up a meeting with this group of people that has had this conversation? Let's just sit down and see if we can find each other enough to come up with a plan, because I think this is what this country needs. Artists are sitting there. Yes, there are all kinds of organizations, federations, but they are working within a system. I think amongst us, we have been able to function as businesses, and because of it, we should be able to come up with a blueprint, at least, if nothing else, a blueprint that will help everybody. And we need to think beyond just the conversation and start thinking of a deliverable plan that will assist all of us to keep our businesses alive. Because asihlalanga siyasebenza, but I think we can thrive. I would like to see myself being counted as one of the billionaires, a South African. In fact, I don't even want to be a billionaire, I want to be a trillionaire. So I want to be a trillionaire South African artist. I mean, millionaire, it's fine, it's nice, but I want to be a trillionaire. So I think with the brains around this table, it's possible for us to be the trillionaires that create the millionaires then. So I think my request would be then, Ziggy, can you please organize a meeting that is not a public platform where we sit down and we write a business plan that makes our own South African proper structure that creates money without asking the corporate world to give us money. Let's become the corporate of the arts. Thanks.
Kamaku. And in fact, we have been trying to we've started these, and this is the fourth artist in Indaba. And we have a WhatsApp group where we're trying to formalize and structurize. But obviously, it's difficult because nobody knows anybody. It was just a WhatsApp group that was just put out. And so we are trying to find each other, but I definitely will create a meeting for this panel to sit down and see, Guti, okay, how can we move forward? And people who would love to watch it, join the Artist Indaba WhatsApp, I'm going to put the phone number in the description box on YouTube, so that the more of us mobilize, and then we choose amongst us the ones who have got the tact and the strategy to move all of us forward, so that we stop burying people. Gadi, what you might call it, gadi fundraising, what, you know, we must already be structured. Thank you so much to everybody who's joined. Thank you to the people who were in the audience. I see Coco Toane was with us today. Okay, let me read some of the comments. I believe that as creatives and artists, we have to harness and our creativity and be masters of our own craft, regardless of red tapes and atrocious behavior done by men. So we are all on the same page as artists. And then the last comment, thank you so much. And please do add me on the list of the group of people in the conversation that moves us forward. We need to stay in touch with one another. Definitely, guys, I will post. Actually, I can quickly do the WhatsApp group number now on screen. I'm putting it up. But once again, please can we thank our esteemed panel. Thank you so much, Mam Sbongile. I mean, you know, you were the man of the match today. We were so inspired. I know I speak on behalf of everybody on screen. Enkos Budlaki, we will continue to support Sabona Music Jam every single Tuesday out Eshawela. I wish we'd put all the description, all the details on stage. Futbongani, Jam and Jazz. Kwanja, when is the next Jam and Jazz so people can start buying tickets? You are muted.
Dilibele, it's 13 and 14 September, Bronco Street.
13 and 14 September. Thank you so much, guys. Jam and Jazz. Are the tickets available online yet?
Yes, they are at CompuTicket and Web Tickets.
I know you. I know you. I know you're a hustler. Sends out a little plug for your graffiti. How can people get hold of you to get some of your work?
Lalela, just Google Sense on Tapo and then you get my details from Yimi. You can get sorry, there was a call coming. I'm very sorry. So just send at 911 and then you will tell our details from Google to social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, Lalela. Bangithola ngilahlile ngisekasa I'm a street artist so ngithole strategy. Danko.
Danko. And Sistina, is there any project you're working on that you need our support on?
Okwamanje no, khona ngisakuhlela, but no, okwamanje no.
But I will tell them to look out for. I know you were collaborating with Sip and Paint, the podcast Sip and Paint.
Yes.
I know you're working behind the scenes there. So
Yes.
we said these things to your podcast as well. Ma'am Sibongile, do you have any projects pushing before we go?
Yes, I would like to see young people joining the choir that I'm starting in Johannesburg because I have one in Free State. It's not your typical choral music. It is a young people's choir that sings their music that they understand. So we've choralized your mapiano and stuff like that. So it's for young people, by young people. So I would like to see young people joining that one.
Beautiful. Thank you, panel. That was so inspiring. I'm sure all of us are buzzing right now and ready to go to our work. I'm going to go to my beadwork now. I've been inspired. Thank you for breathing life into guys. They asked me now. I was starting to quit being an artist. I was like, no, I'm out of here. So thank you to people like you who make sure that at least we know that it's not that we are stupid that we have chosen this path. So bless you and bless everybody. Thank you to everybody who is watching, and see